this song for ya.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, episode 62. Talking today about the last song on side A of Machine Head, Never Before. In an interview once, I heard Jon Lord say, never before, never again. But you know what? That's okay. He may not have liked this song. It may not have been one of his favorites. And, when you're in a band, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to love every single thing that even your own band does. Or maybe you had expectations for the song that didn't really come to fruition. Either way, he had his own feelings about it. I have mine. You're going to have yours if you don't already. Before we get into today's song, I do want to give you guys a little bit of an update. I mentioned in an earlier episode that I was experimenting with a little bit of a change in the process. So for you tech guys and you podcasters, I have not noticed a change. There was a slight difference in volume visually, but when I compared them on the scales, I didn't really see a major difference at all, or even a slight difference, I should say, in volume switching from using Levelator to actually doing the volume leveling in Isotope RX. So I will admit, I worked with ChatGPT to get the right settings and came up with them very quickly, ran an experiment. It worked. I used it on that episode, listened back, did a comparison against Levelator. So far, so good. I have switched to Isotope RX for both my declick and my leveling process, completely eliminating having to save it, export it, go to Levelator, import that back into my DAW. So that actually saves me a little bit of time, which is really nice considering the number of podcasts I'm doing. Very grateful for anything that can shave off my time. Levelator is an awesome program, though. If you don't have RX, it basically takes your volumes and boosts them up to broadcast standards. However, I would say to only do that with your dialogue tracks. Do not do that with music. It will distort and maybe cause some audio artifacts. I've not had good experience trying that in the past, so don't do it. Just don't. And of course, before we get into the show, I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support of the show. Thank you everybody who supports the show, but these folks are inspired to even throw some money my way for the time that I spend doing the show. And thank you very much, Corey Morissette, William Rose, and Nate. You guys are amazing. All at the $5 Money Talks tier. And Money Talks is a Deep Purple song, which is why I picked that name for the tier. And as I always say, it's coming down the road. We'll get to it. And we will. It is on Rapture of the Deep. Excellent album that we could be seeing a re-release of in the slightly distant, not too distant or very distant future. Time will tell. But looking forward to that because that's kind of an interesting album. And I'll be excited to talk about that when we get there. Kind of the problem with this show, and I didn't experience this as much with Uriah Heep because there were a lot of songs that I hadn't heard in their more recent years. But with Deep Purple, since I know the catalog so well, I'm like, God, I can't wait to talk about this song. I can't wait to talk about that song, which equates to me talking about every single song. And the challenge with that is I want to sit here and every day record another episode. And I'm going to get so far ahead of where we are. I'm already just slightly over 4 weeks ahead of release date right now. So that's kind of where I want to maintain it. But I only release 4 shows a week and I want to record 7. So of course I've got Haskincast podcast, but it's like, God, I can't wait to talk about Perfect Strangers. I can't wait to talk about Gypsy's Kiss. I can't wait to talk about Before Time Began. And they're way down the road. So it's an interesting challenge for me. To just kind of rein it in and only record so many podcasts ahead of time. So today, though, we're talking about Never Before, as I mentioned. Last song on side A of Machine Head, we're listening to the 25th anniversary second disc version that Roger Glover released. Really, really cool. I've been very impressed with the sound of this. There's a part of me that I guess maybe it's just the nostalgia standpoint, but kind of longs for that mellow overtone that I've talked about on Machine Head. But for this purpose, I'm really grateful to have something that has a little more clarity, a little more depth, and has a little bit more of an edge to be able to review. So without further ado, as they say, let's jump right into it. Here it is, Never Before by Deep Purple. Aside from, a really cool drum intro, very simple, very swing feel to it, very pacey for sure. I'm hearing something in my far right ear, and I'm not sure what it is. The only thing I can guess is that it is Ian Pace's foot down on the hi-hat pedal, not lifting it up, but kind of maybe bouncing it on the pedal with it, down, just kind of like bouncing his knee to keep the timing of it. Because it does seem to be in time. It's not a metronome, but it does seem to be in time. And that's maybe the closest from the sound I'm hearing that I can come up with. So imagine like you're a drummer, you don't want to lift the hi-hat pedal because you don't want the cymbal sound, right? But you need to keep time. You know that you're going to be going to a closed hi-hat very quickly. And so you just keep your toes down, heel up, and just kind of bounce on it while pressing it down so that you're getting like a little bit of the chain motion, but not enough to lift the cymbals up and make a sound. That's just a guess. If you guys know what it is or hear something that's different than what my suspicion is, please let me know because I'm very curious. You know what I'm picturing is just them, not when they were recording, because when they were recording, they were very barricaded and all that. But I'm just imagining when they're writing this song, and I can just see them, sitting down, having a jam, this coming out of a jam, them just kind of looking at each other and being locked in and feeling this kind of relaxed groove with a little burst of energy here and there coming from everybody, but nothing intense, just a real casual jam and just kind of everybody looking at each other and smiling and going like, yeah, we're locked onto something here. We've got something to work with. I'm just picturing that. What the reality was, of course, I have no idea. But what I can say is this feels good. It's coming off the Pictures of Home, which was pretty intense. Now we're kind of slowing things down a little bit for the last song on the last side. Well, of course, they wouldn't have known because the order isn't typically chosen until after. But they're just kind of settling in for a nice little jam here, and it feels really good. I've never noticed this before, and I think I can maybe only say this about side A. And I know what some of my friends in one of my group texts are going to say, but I feel like there's kind of a running theme or a concept for side A. You got Highway Star, right? Which is about, this, you've got a woman, you're living this crazy lifestyle, you're, diving into life head first. And then you get to Maybe I'm a Leo, where you've lost the girl, you're hurting, you're calling out for help and for somebody to be there. You get Pictures of Home, where you're alone, again, taking responsibility, just like in Maybe I'm a Leo. This is here in this prison of my own making. Then you get Here, which is still kind of crying out for somebody to be there. I feel empty. I feel lonely. I've lost something. that's causing me to feel this way. So I don't know if any of this was intentional. Typically, song order is picked after the songs are done. It's not, you can't really pick it as you write them because you don't know what you've got. You don't know what's going to fit on an album side and all that. So there's a lot of open possibility here, but I do find it fascinating that I am finding that sort of general connection between these four songs. If I think ahead to side B, except for When a Blind Man Cries, which I suppose you could lump into this, but the other three songs, I don't think so. I mean, obviously Smoke on the Water is its own story, very well documented, but Lazy and Space Truckin', I don't really think that they necessarily fit into this. As a stretch, listening to the lyrics, you could probably put Lazy in as a means of why she left, but that would be about it. But these four songs, they do have a common thread or a continuing storyline. Okay, so we have our regrouping point for this song because this is the thing that they will anchor to come back to and go into the next section of the song. Killer music. Okay, so first of all, I mean, vocally, fantastic. I love when Ian harmonizes himself. It just sounds great. It's nice and smooth. It has a wonderful overall sound to it. And again, it's like got that pleading to it that sounds a little bit desperate, crying out for help. But then the music is such a contrast to it because if you listen to what Jon Lord is playing, it's almost happy. You know, he's just kind of bebopping around the Hammond, and it's just fun, a little bit funky, I would say. And then, you know, the rest of the band, you've got just kind of really laying that solid foundation, but they're doing interesting things. It's not like they're just playing straightforward, allowing the vocals to shine through. You could actually not listen to the vocals, be completely entertained by the music. But then when you get the vocals on, the vocals kind of take a little bit of focus unless you specifically draw your focus away from that back into the music. So as I always say, listen to this song after the podcast and see, you know, what do you hear in this? Because there's so many things going on. It would take me a couple of hours to talk about everything I'm hearing. But I'll just highlight that there's some really cool stuff that these guys are playing behind that vocal, and it's really worth some attention. It's such a great blend of guitar and organ going on behind this. And then, of course, we've got Ian Pace with a few of his flourishes. Roger's not cutting through as well on this one. He must just be playing along with Richie and John, but I'm not hearing any specific Roger-esque things at this point. Now, of course, it's fun. I mentioned, how they're playing exciting things. And then we go to this part, and in the verse, they really are playing straightforward. They're just playing the riff of the song. It's in that sort of, as close as you get to a pre-chorus and a chorus, because it goes so fast. That's the part where I'm talking about where they get a little bit crazy. But here, they're just laying the background, giving Ian the room to tell the story, which is exactly what they should be doing. Before we get into the bridge here, I just wanted to point out, I love the crack of Ian Pace's snare on this. It really it just seems like he's playing this song a little bit heavier, and I'm not sure why, but that snare is cracking through to my ears just a little bit more than on the other songs. That could have been an EQ thing as well, but it does cut through a little bit more. And again, like here, we're at a regrouping point, so we know we're about to transition into something else. This is just an excellent bridge. I love when Ian says, I was hurt when I was younger. And then Richie follows up with this very sorrowful fill in on guitar. I mean, we hear these fill ins a lot, but this one is so on point. Really just kind of takes Ian's words and puts a lot more emotion into them. And what's interesting about that is this might have been recorded before the words were even written. It's very common that they would record the backing tracks and then, Roger and Ian would sit down and figure out what the words were going to be after the fact. But as we heard with Fools, I heard Ian working out those ideas while they were still putting the song together. So he might start earlier than that, or might have started on some songs. It's hard to say. Don't have any records on that, but very interesting and very beautifully played. Maybe that sorrowful guitar part is what drove Ian and Roger to put that lyric in there. Like, hey, this is a cool thing. We need to be sorrowful. But then we've got a song that's, again, kind of pleading for help. So it all really fits. And it fits musically, too. So a really cool part there. Jon's got some really strong chords that he's playing through this. Ian Pace dialing it down to let the emotion come through. Very well played. And we're starting to get a little bit of Roger's bass in there. I'm hearing some real low end on that. Just a great part and something that you wouldn't really expect, because of the tempo for it to drop like that is pretty severe and jarring, but it works so beautifully. Killer solo from Richie on that. Absolutely fantastic. Really, it almost sounds like there's a little bit of hope coming into the song. Although we'll find out, in the last verse whether there's actually hope in the lyrics or not. But it was it was a good feeling solo. So here we're coming out of this desperate thing. He just puts in this sorrowful thing, and now the solo's a little bit happy. Maybe too happy. I'm not sure. That's up to you. But I like the solo nonetheless. I think it fits musically. If you take away the lyrics and what we're talking about in the song, musically it fits very well. Also, getting that same push from Ian Pace in this, about halfway through the solo, he switches and starts doing like almost a gallop on the bass, between the bass and the snare, which is really interesting because I had only heard part of that previously. And now that I'm listening, I didn't realize he played that all the way through the rest of the solo. Really cool there. But again, it's kind of like optimism, gearing up, getting happy, getting pumped up. Very, very cool. I think I realized another part of why I've always felt the way I have about the mix of Machine Head and just the overall sound. I think the vocals are a little bit laid into the music. I think they could be boosted just a little bit to stand out more. Although it's weird because they should be louder and they're not, but yet you can still hear everything. But I feel like maybe that's part of what I find is part of the mellow sound of it. Plus, Ian's not singing with a lot of grit here or in this song at all. He hasn't really for the last couple of songs. He's saying pretty straightforward. So, compared to Fireball and like Highway Star, then these last three songs, his voice has been a little bit more mellow. And that could be part of it too. But in any case, really love the performance of it. I think it sounds great. We're about to head into the open sort of jam session here that the guys are going to have as we wrap up the song, but I've loved everything up to it. I've always loved this song. And I'm kind of bummed that Jon didn't, especially because it really sounds like he's having fun playing keyboards on this, especially in that Help Me Now, Please My Friend part. And just as it begins, it ends with a little drum fill there, only this time with some accompaniment. Love Jon Solo. He is the king of knowing how to find a little interesting niche phrase and just kind of ride on that. Just the way he repeated that over and over again, but it wasn't boring. It didn't feel repetitive, even though it was literally repetitive. I wasn't bored with it. I didn't feel like, oh God, stop doing that. It actually rolled through my ears very, very well. He is such a master of that. Richie's really good with like hanging on the one note and maybe doing some repeats in his solos, more so I think live than in the studio from my immediate recall. But Jon, that's kind of part of his thing, part of his sound. And I love when he finds something like that and can just repeat it. And make it sound good. That's absolutely fantastic. And then of course, solid performances from Roger and Ian Pace. Really a great song. I love the way it just feels like it's just opening up at the end, even though it's really just a simple solo section, but there's just something about it that kind of feels like, okay, we're done with vocals, put the singer behind us, we're headed for open waters, and they just kind of go for it. Really, really great song. I hope that you guys like this one. I mean, I honestly, I hope that for every song, whether it's one that I like or not, and there are a couple that I don't, but I feel like, I want every song to be liked, which is kind of why I'm doing the show. Because we've all heard Highway Star. We've all heard Smoke on the Water. A lot of people know Perfect Strangers, Woman from Tokyo, but there's so many great album tracks like this one that I think are really worth diving into. And that's really more so why I did the show than for the ones that people know. Interestingly, and I thought this had been released, and I only have one version of it on 45, which I'm only really collecting the Purple Records 45 releases, not really collecting everything else, at least not at this point. Maybe someday I will. But for now, just the Purple Records. And there was a version released with Never Before as the A side and When a Blind Man Cries on the B side. John Matola and I, when we did the I'm Alone episode, we talked about these 12-inch singles that were put out. There was a series of them. And I want to say Never Before was on one of those as well. I mean, I know it's not uncommon for it to show up on some of the compilations, which is fine because it's a great song and it was released as a single. But I thought I'd had like a couple of different configurations with it on there on Purple Records, but I guess that was the only one. I might have been thinking of Maybe I'm a Leo because I have that one en route with Smoke on the Water on the A side and Maybe I'm a Leo on the B side. So as far as I know, at least as far as Purple Records goes, that was the only release for Never Before. I'm sure Warner Brothers, maybe Harvest, has some other issues of it. Very, very possible. And also they did this weird thing where they released like a song from In Rock with a song on Machine Head as a B-side or an A-side with a In Rock B-side. Like there's all kinds of crazy releases and configurations. All has to do with people getting publishing rights and saying, well, if I paid for the publishing rights, I need to make money, and releasing it so that they can. Because honestly, if you have it, you have it. And there would be no reason to buy it unless you're a collector or unless there's like a stripped down version or like a live B-side, like with Smoke on the Water, there's the live version on the back, something like that. But other than that, I mean, there's really no reason to have it released in multiple configurations, except purely for money-making purposes. I mean, that's why you release records, to make money, but you know what I mean? Like kind of it's already out there, but we're going to try and suck a little more marrow out of these bones. And that's very rarely anything to do with the band at all. In fact, most of the time they have no idea what's going on with this stuff. That's all record companies and publishers territory. But anyway, yeah, so I do have that on 45 on Purple Records. Very clean version, actually, really nice. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think of the song. Do you lean more towards Jon Lord saying never before, never again? Or are you with me? And this is a great track. Personally, I love it. I mean, despite the sad story that Ian's telling, the song has a warm feeling to it. It's a little bit upbeat. It's got some cool jams in there, some great solos from Richie and John, some cool fills from Ian Pace. Like what's not to like about this song? So it's kind of a contrast actually to have such dark and pleading lyrics, except for that middle section. So interesting accomplishment from the band, and I like when they're sort of counterintuitive lyrics and music. It's interesting to me to write that way, because I think we tend to be like, okay, take a song like Nothing Compares to You, the Sinead O'Connor version from Prince, right? The music is very sad. It's just, I mean, like you're already in tears basically before she starts singing. And then through the whole song, it's just like so dramatic and everything. That is on par, right? You've got sad music, sad lyrics. That makes sense. Here you've got sad and pleading lyrics, happier music, except for that one section. And I like that contrast. It keeps it interesting. And this band is nothing short on interest. That's for sure. So anyway, that is today's episode, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for listening.